Move on to the markets in Nigeria. The market's moving pretty strongly in today's session. The NSE All Share Index up to 33,351 points, 1.4% higher than previous close. I think the big takeaway today is that we saw value traded move up significantly higher, 80% compared to yesterday's session. We saw 4.8 billion naira worth of trades in today's session. And for the naira, we see it trading at 158.45 to the US dollar. So we continue to see some weakness there, and that's perhaps one of the factors that is having some impact on our bond. We'll get to that after the break. But before that, let's now cross to Diamond Bank to speak to Adegboyega Adebajo, Head of Structural Finance and Advisory, to hear his thoughts on the market's performance, and then to talk about some interesting investment banking transactions going on in Nigeria right now. But guys, great to have you on our show. And first of all, maybe your thoughts on how the market has bounced back this week. We've seen this is the third straight day of gains after the market seemed to fall back over a 2-week period.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, but I think the kind of appetite we have, it's totally not unexpected. You did say something about inflation earlier on, but let's wait till you get to talk about the bonds, what's happening to yields, how inflation is affecting decisions on that. Because I think we're also seeing a play on that, what's going on in the money market, and getting a reaction in the capital market. But it's a good sign for the capital markets.
Well, from where you sit, I imagine that you're in the flow of investors looking to bring money into Nigeria to take advantage of the consumer market, telecoms, etc. Talk us through some of the deals that you're seeing in the pipeline these days.
Okay. Well, there are deals coming across all sectors, but the talk around and the most engaging ones these days are the power sector deals. Right. As you well know, last week PPAs were signed across the board. But there's still a lot of talk going on with respect to those power deals. Right. There's still not enough equity, or as much equity as one would like, to provide stability to some of those projects. And when you look in terms of the capacity of the banks to do debt there, so there are some limitations. And that's where the offshore funding tends to come in. Right. There are inquiries about this, there's interest. But the critical thing which we need to get down to really is are the PPAs. The bulk trader needs to be seen, needs to take off, needs to be distinct, and to show that it has capacity to be able to buy the power of the generation companies and take them over. There was a headline today about Manitoba being pretty much ready for the transmission contract. Right. And as you know, that's a critical aspect of connecting power generation to power distribution. Yeah. On the other side of it, the distribution companies are going to have to make sure that they apply all what is available in terms of technology for revenue assurance, because the generation companies are going to make sure that they must get their funding or they're able to repay their funding with the cash flow being generated. And that's very critical in the calculations that debt providers have made for them.
Okay, let's move on to other sectors. Of course, last year we saw some high-profile deals. We saw General Electric coming into the market, making an announcement to make huge investments in Nigeria. Tiger Brands, of course, did some deals with UAC and Dangote Flour. What can we anticipate this year? A lot of people talk about the insurance space being quite attractive to investors.
Well, it certainly is. We did talk about Old Mutual earlier in the year. Right. I'm aware there are a couple of other offshore insurance companies that are looking into play. And certainly there's a lot going on below the radar in that sector. You can notice that if you look at the way some of the stocks have been moving, both in terms of price and in terms of volumes being traded. And I still see some time down the line, some combinations coming up in that space in particular.
Okay, let's move on to the IPO market. I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you think we're going to see an IPO? The market doing pretty well over the last 2 years. If we extend the recent gains to the start of last year, we're talking about well over 50%. So do you think we're going to see a deal this year? Some people are already saying the consumer company values are already quite rich. It might be a good time for some to come to the market.
Well, 56% if you look at the past 52 weeks in terms of growth. But yes, we have seen a real estate investment trust doing its initial public offering. And that's a pretty good thing to come. But there are still quite a few possible rights issues coming. O&O has closed. I understand Transcorp is thinking of doing the rights issue.
Right.
And I think we'll see a lot more of the rights issues to start with. Mainly because, one, you want to pass on some rewards to those shareholders who stayed with you in terms of an additional opportunity to invest at a discount. And you want to slowly increase your capital base and build the confidence in the market before testing a wider shareholding base at this instance. But we must not forget that we still have a flow of offshore funds coming into the market, and
Right.
that still seems to be the play.
Any deal in the banking space, you think?
Well, there's none to talk of now. It's early days in the year yet, until we start to see the results of the banks coming out sometime, probably by the end of March, mid-April to end of April. We'll start to get those results coming in. And I think from a perspective of being analytical, you'll want to look at the balance sheet of the industry as a whole, so to say. Look at what has happened to risk assets, how it has grown. Look at capital in the banking sector, and start to think in terms of whether there's going to be some more capital to encourage risk asset growth, or whether banks are going to become portals through which offshore financing is going to flow, either as debt or as a hybrid equity into some project.